we've been talking Class A surfacing and all these things, but to me, surfacing is kind of surfacing. There's either good or bad. It's not all Class A and Class Z that's horrible. But here's a situation that I find a lot of users run into. We've got a basic shape here that looks pretty good. So if we let's just shade this using something like this. It looks pretty nice. Okay, we kind of got some shape coming from the front or the rear to the front and going up over a wheel arch. Okay, looks pretty good. If we turn off the model, and actually I'm going to use the transparency a little bit here to show this, and we can kind of see now how, hey, that's a little crazy right there. Okay, and users probably think, we'll just start blending this. Okay. So I look at this, and just from here, right, I see this problem right here, but what I'm looking more at when I look at this model is this surface. And I wonder how with this surface, with this wedge piece right here, how is it getting good continuity to this surface? You'd have to have control vertices that are very strange at this end. Okay, so if we look at this, we do have control vertices that are very strange at the end. Okay, and by very strange, I mean they're kind of on top of one another almost. They look really weird. Okay, that's not good. Never good. Okay, at Class A, even at Class B, we can't even get good highlights probably on here. If we do a few diagnostic shading things, let's use a couple of these tools here. Maybe there's the black and white bars. Okay, if we turn model off, we can see here, well, that's no good. Okay, it kind of appears like it's flowing, but it's not. If we use maybe the ISO angle, we can get another look. Okay, not so good. The light tunnel. Okay, this might be, it kind of hides it and kind of shows, but I can still see a witness line right there, and then I can see in my lighting and right here that there's something bad going on. Okay. In my mind, I already knew that, because unless this surface had a big rectangular shape over here and this was a trim line, I know that these control vertices in this corner would have to be heavily distorted. When I see things like this, I know that I can't simply fix and align these surfaces. This surface needs to be rethought. Okay? How it's constructed needs to be rethought. And how we get to that needing to be filled, because theoretically, if I just template this really quick, we really have a body side here that we probably kind of like, and we have an upper fender here that we kind of like. We're just looking to get a transition. Okay, many ways to tackle this. Let's say this was your first attempt. Okay, so what does a person do? Well, we decided we'd put a strip of surface here. That would allow us to have a strip of surface there, then a strip of surface here, here, and here. Okay, so now those kind of all go together, and we don't have any horrible acute angles like we did in the original, but we know based on what we've talked about, and we look at this layout, this is no good. And then we want to look at this surface and see what this is. Okay, no, not quite. All right. And let's say this patch structure and these CVs worked out and it was fine. We don't care about the CVs. We simply care about the highlights. So let's turn on a tunnel here and just do some highlight analysis really quick. Well, right away, if I turn the model off and I look at this, I can see it's Humpty Dumpty in here. Okay, and we can see those weird shading artifacts. If we turn the black and white bars on, whoa, that's not good. Okay. Now, what I look at when I see this kind of situation, okay, I'm going to look at this from a different perspective, I think, because I look at this surface, okay, this big guy, and if we go back to our original, okay, we have this surface. I'm just going to turn on some curvature combs, okay. And we can talk about these for a little bit. Maybe we put like 10 of them on here. Okay. Let's up their samples and up their scale a little bit. So what I see here is we have kind of a slab type surface, but then it gets quite a bit of acceleration to the top. And now we have that acceleration kind of running along, and it looks pretty good. I'm going to go back to ortho viewing again. But all of a sudden, as we get over in here, our amount of lead in at the end of the surface starts to really diminish. Okay? I kind of see this as a nice section. Okay, so we need to go from this section down here and blend into this nice lead-in section. Okay, and let this vanish out up to nothing. Bunch of ways we could tackle this. I'll show you the way I did it, and we'll try and construct it. Okay. So my first thought is to take this surface. Okay, I need a piece of surface right here so that I can extrude and keep a constant acceleration or a constant softness at this edge. So when I blended this corner, this is what my surface layout looks like. Okay. So we have the first surface layout. Let's get the shading on these set up. We'll delete our locators, pick this template, toggle it. Okay, so we can look at some of this stuff, do a little comparison here. Maybe we'll even use this guy. Okay, so we have this as the first scenario. A user came in and tried to do what we saw. Maybe we have this, looks pretty good. But again, when you get into here and you start to look, you see some wobbliness. We see a little crack here. Okay, and then we have this one. And let's turn on the same shading for this one. Okay. Now this one, if you look, notice how the highlights tend to stay nice and the same through here, and then those highlights just vanish up into here and fade away. Okay. So what I've done structure-wise here is I've taken this original surface. It's identical to the one that this file started with. Identical. Okay. But I added in a surface to keep a constant crown. Okay. And then I made a transitional surface. I made a transitional curve here between those two. And I sculpted that curve a little bit, and I might have tuned a couple of CVs up here. But in the original, okay, we've got a bit of strange, I think, for me, this is a bit, I don't know, flat in here. And this is where you can use your tools and accentuate this. My blend, I think it's quite nice and it's quite dynamic through that area. Okay, the original, it has a flat in here, I think, and this first blend still has a flat. So I kind of like how this is nice and dynamic. Okay, I used dynamic. I'm sorry. Then what I did. Okay, so that gets me basically to having this surface, and this surface. Okay, so once we're at the point where we have these three, now we need to start working out our transition. Okay, so I know that I need to go from this section to this section. So I put a transitional surface in here, just like that. It's got some twist, okay, that's okay. It's all right. This would not pass in Class A surfacing, okay? We're talking about here, Class A surfacing doesn't always mean, hey, you get 6 months to work on a fender. Sometimes it's, can you blend this out? Okay, help us blend this out. Okay, you're a good surfacing person. So I put a transitional surface in here that looks pretty good, okay? And then I run these surfaces to do the connection, okay? Now in this surface case, when we go to our black and white lines, okay, we've got some really nice lines. We get a constant crown up here. It transitions up through. If we look at that compared to the previous, and its friend. Okay, we start with this. Okay, an attempt like this, the final like this. Okay. All of it based on a surface structure where I decided to carry the same amount of crown, okay, in this surface. I decided to keep that same amount of lead in at the end of this surface so that it could come all the way through here, all the way up around the corner, and all the way across the top. okay? And I use this surface, no really contorted CVs. I mean, if this was to be Class A, we would need to do some work here, lay some things out. There might be two slabs and a transition that help define this, but you can't solve this, you can't fix this surface scenario. If we start with this, we can't simply fix this surface. It's not the solution to this problem. So let's work on that.